Christina Lewandowski is digital marketer and founder of CopyBean, digital marketing agency based in Los Angeles, California. She does social media management, SEO, content writing, and website copywriting. She holds a BS in pre-medicine and pre-medical studies from Arizona State University. Go Sun Devils. Welcome, Christina. It's a pleasure to have you on the Fancy Comma YouTube. I'm so excited to chat with you and to learn more about CopyBean and what you've been doing and your parakeets in the background. They might start just announcing random stuff, so we'll see how that goes.
Thank you, by the way, for welcoming my birds. They do have a lot of really great advice, so stick around, you might hear some. So I actually started the company at the turn of COVID. I was actually had plans to go to medical school. That obviously, once you have a child and then the pandemic hits the world, you can't really fulfill that well. So I decided to shift priorities and adapt. It did lead me to a role as an executive administrator for one of the biggest healthcare marketing companies. And I didn't really love a lot of the way the things were done. I felt like it could be a lot more ethical, a lot more transparent. So I decided to kind of just experiment with my own knowledge, and I started making mock-ups. And then my husband's like, why don't you just do it? Like, stop practicing and like go out there and try it. So an event happened where I decided to just take the leap. I quit my job, $0 in the savings account, which was not something I recommend doing, but it is something we did. And it ended up taking almost immediately, which was crazy to me. I got my first client on retainer within a week of our official launch, and it just kept growing from there. And now we are very privileged to be a large scale agency, and we've worked with some of the biggest names in health and science. So it's super fun.
You actually have a Bachelor of Science and you're a writer, and I'm also a scientist and a writer. I think there needs to be more people that are writers that have a science and health background, because those are the people that really understand health and science more than anyone. So tell us a little bit about what you do in your work.
Yeah, honestly, I don't want to say a little bit of everything because it sounds super cliche, but it really is the truth. A lot of times we work with small to mid-sized businesses when we're not doing like corporate consulting. A lot of our bread and butter is small to mid-sized businesses in the tech space, health space, science space, anything STEM that come to us, and they're really, really great clinically. Like, they know what they're doing, they have the stats, they have the empirical knowledge, but they can't make it a story that resonates with people. So that's what they come to us for. So we kind of marry the art and the science of getting people to care who either are or aren't involved in the industry, which applies to a lot of stakeholders, um, and people that, you know, want the product versus the people who create the product. So we are the go-between. And we do that with content writing, social media marketing, and kind of a holistic approach. Any services I don't offer or specialize in, like paid ads, etc., I do give out to referral partners. So there's always somebody to help in whatever gaps either come up or are already there. We kind of try to do like a one-stop shop kind of a setup.
I think that you're right about this intermediator thing, like a go between, perhaps between like large companies that work in the biomedical space and just everyday people. As a medical person that knows a lot about medicine, what is your favorite part about digital marketing?
The human element, and I kind of have really personal experience with this. It's no secret that I've had Lyme disease since I was 13 years old, and I was one of the cases that they didn't catch and diagnose, so mine turned chronic. I've had a lifetime of health issues because of it, and all throughout my degree, my whole goal was to help people like me who didn't have that knowledge or the confidence or even like ability to know what to ask for. Because I feel like if I could have better advocated for myself then, even though I was young, maybe it would have turned out different. And I kind of bring that same thing to marketing, because even though I couldn't help in this direction, I want to help in this one where I'm putting the science in plain English for people who want to improve themselves and their health. I just have to make the pieces click for them to take that step. So it results in a conversion for the business and a better outcome for the person.
Your client list is super impressive. You've worked with clients in the health space like Walgreens and BetterHelp, which I think that's the app. It's the mental health app, right? Yeah, I'm a neuroscientist by training. People don't understand their own brains.
No.
It's terrible because, like, if you knew how your brain worked, you would do work so much differently. And I found that, like, if you know that when you're tired and stressed out, you don't make good decisions, then you don't make decisions when you're tired and stressed out, or when you're driving and like because that's like a I find driving to be a huge test of my cognitive abilities, and especially in LA. Like I've driven in LA traffic. That traffic, first of all, you can't go anywhere a lot of the time because you're just stuck. But then the other times, you're just like the highways have like 9 million lanes. Me as an Oklahoman, I cannot drive in LA. But
I
anyway,
refuse.
I would also refuse. I would just go on foot everywhere. Take this up. You guys have a good transit system. What is your advice for aspiring health and science communicators who wish to follow in your footsteps?
I would definitely say don't be afraid to adapt because I'm a huge perfectionist, as most people in the health and wellness space are, which is a good thing, right? You want good doctors treating you. Um, but I was like frozen for so long because I knew I had some sort of skills, obviously, because I practiced them. I knew that I wanted to do something, but I stayed stuck so long. And it took my husband kind of like shaking me a little and being like, come on, go. Like, you can do it, just go. So don't be afraid to take the leap. Don't be afraid to change on the way down. If you make mistakes, you screw up, don't let that stop you. And not in the cliche way, because of course you're going to sit for a while, you're going to lick your wounds and kind of freak out a little bit, and that's normal, but don't let it paralyze you. Um, and if it, don't underestimate either the value of bringing value. I feel like so many people feel like they can't create an ebook, without charging $5, or they can't, put their 2 cents in without being like, pay me my hourly fee. That shouldn't be that way. You need to prove yourself first. And I feel like that's something that's very easily lost. So if you're constantly giving value everywhere you go, not only does it boost your networking skills and your own self-confidence, but it also just, it betters the greater, it kind of contributes to the greater good. And that really should be all that we're doing as humans anyway. We shouldn't be gatekeeping, knowledge and skill at any point.
Sort of a follow-on question to that. What were you doing in the pandemic? Were you all like me, sleeplessly watching the news and trying to summarize everything for everyone? Because I feel honestly like irreparably changed, just completely changed from the because I felt like I was in a night 24/7 crisis. I was just constantly reading the news, summarizing stuff, getting angry that people didn't explain things on the news correctly, angrily blogging that like, no, you didn't get this right. Like writing my I wrote the governor with an action plan on how to communicate COVID science, and I was like literally just could not disengage from the science. So how did CopyBean contribute to COVID and the pandemic? Because I feel like just from what we've talked about, you've probably contributed a lot to boosting science literacy and helping the companies themselves do the scale rapidly.
First of all, I 100% hear you on that, and I would love to see that action plan. I'm sure it is meticulously thought and well put together. Um, Me personally, I was fending off anxiety attacks because my entire course of life changed. 2020 was going to be my graduating year where I had it all dialed, and it was trashed then. My husband immediately was out of work. So I was picking up hourly jobs wherever I could get them online and trying to take care of a newborn. So that's what I was doing personally. Professionally, as this was percolating, when we launched in 2021, we had the privilege of getting plugged right in. I don't know how, but with health tech, we're working on a product for a company that would track healthcare tools like in hospitals. So that would help connect practitioners with what they need most efficiently, which we all know seconds can save a life. We did an EMR company, we supported them, and then we moved on to Walgreens. So that was really like promoting just science literacy, go get your preventative wellness stuff. All the front page website content went through me at one point, which was really tremendous to be a part of. So we kind of attacked it at all ends after the initial shock of, oh my God, the world is in a pandemic. I feel like we all had that reeling moment of my life's never going to be the same.
I definitely feel you on that because at the beginning I was like, oh, this is going to force people to learn science. Like I'm so excited because I'm a scientist. Everyone's going to learn science, and like everyone did not learn science. I can't imagine what that must have been like. One bright spot for me is that like knowing about science and health and being able to contribute that, I feel like gave me a lot of meaning in the pandemic. Did you find a lot of meaning in your work as a health communicator, science communicator, marketer, science marketer, communicator? Like it's that that space between science and marketing that we bridged in the pandemic that didn't really exist before, I feel.
I think it gave me meaning in the sense that there will be a tomorrow. You know, we are making it better for people tomorrow. And we can take steps today to protect ourselves with knowledge that will help us tomorrow. And I think that just kind of kept me going through because it's really hard to sift through, like you were saying, all the stuff and figure out, okay, what is science? What is media? You know, what is conjecture that is likely not backed by anything? And that kind of helped.
It just sometimes I felt like it was me against the algorithms that were boosting all this anti-science content. You just open your phone, you're like, vaccines cause 5G. You're like, I would love if vaccines gave me 5G because I could finally have cell phone reception in some places. But uh, okay, I guess I should sort of introduce my next question by saying I have never been as busy as I was in the pandemic as a small business owner. I literally worked every single day and like just I don't know what I was doing, like starting my company, you were starting your company, raising a newborn, doing all juggling all this stuff. It was great for a while as a health in the health and science space. Like it was bad because the pandemic was so soul crushing every day, but it
Mm-hmm.
was also good because we had a lot of work to do. So, but then once the pandemic got better, I noticed that there was less work. So, um, and then ChatGPT came along, and that people discovered they could just write articles basically for free on like using very quickly. How has ChatGPT affected your work in digital marketing, and have you been able to adapt?
So, there are two camps that I'm seeing in digital marketing right now. There is the camp of AI will steal our jobs and kill us all. There is also the camp of AI is amazing, you know, let it raise your family, let it live your life for you. I think we need to stop being so extreme. I think that it has use and value. I don't think that it needs to replace marketers because it can't. The entire point of marketing is to bring the human element, and that's something tech cannot do. For ChatGPT, they're taking stuff that's already published, regurgitating it, you know, in its ChatGPT way and learning from it actively. It's machine learning, and then spitting it back out at you. It's like Google. They're trying to give you the most relevant info based on what you ask. That can't be used to write articles. They even say in the fine print, you know, all these rules against repurposing and commercial use and profitability because it's other people's intellectual property a lot of the time. Rarely, if ever, usually never, will you see an original answer come out of that. And I feel like that's something I wish business owners knew. Not to mention the possible implications for SEO later on when Google picks up on everything being the same. They're going to change the game again, which means you're going to get devalued, and your customer's going to know. You know, they're not uninformed. If they see something that's inauthentic or incorrect, it's going to be obvious that you, as an industry leader and thought leadership voice, didn't write that. And I don't know if that's something we want to be putting out there for our clients necessarily.
I personally don't use it. Do you
Me
use
neither.
ChatGPT? Yeah,
No.
because there's a lot of people that use it, and I just look at them and I'm like, I mean, like, you know, when the new iPhone comes out, we all go get it. I'm one of those people, I don't get it right then
I
because it
don't.
has a lot of bugs. I just wait until everyone's stopped obsessing over it, it's less expensive. That's how I feel about with ChatGPT. I feel like it's the new shiny thing. People don't know how it works because most people don't know anything about how AI works or how an algorithm works. And you know, marketing budgets are this is terrible news for us marketers, but I read that marketing budgets are down 10% this year in
Mm-hmm.
2023. So everyone I've talked to has a lot of people trying to get the most amount of work for the least amount of money. And I think I've like recommended to people on discovery calls, like when they lowball me, I'm just like, have you tried ChatGPT? Because everyone's just like getting free content from there. But it's like, it's like all the blogs I wrote for Fancy Comma are in the ChatGPT algorithm. Because like, I swear, someone wrote a science communication blog using them. And I swear I saw some phrases just completely lifted from either my website or you know, that feeling where you look at something, you're like, that looks so familiar. I don't know where that came from, but possibly from me. But it's just mind boggling. And I was talking to someone yesterday about artificial intelligence. They work in the aviation space, and I was like, "What do you think about applying AI to aviation?" And he said something that I thought was really interesting. He said, "Aviation is very complex. It's hard to get." people to do it properly. So I don't think
Hmm.
robots are going to be able to do it properly anytime soon. And then I thought about it, and writing is also very complex, very human. It's hard to get people to do it properly. I'm a writing tutor right now to pay the bills as a bootstrapping to bootstrap myself. That's one of my two jobs. Then I'm hoping to work at a coffee shop. So the struggle is like so real with this economy and ChatGPT and everything. But that gives me hope that people will realize that ChatGPT might be useful to some people. Like you could definitely just like figure out how to hack it. Maybe you can't use it to write actual articles because it does just kind of regurgitate other people. I've heard it referred to as a fancy autocomplete, which I agree with that because I mean in a way, it is a fancy autocomplete. It just predicts stuff based on what is read from the internet. Until AI drives my car for me, I don't trust it. So
I can't tell you how many discovery calls I've been on, and the prospect is like, "What makes you better than ChatGPT?" Which, first of all, is it's slightly, you wouldn't ask someone that, right? Like, we're humans, we have inherent worth, but um, anything that we don't understand has the opportunity to be misused and abused, more so than it otherwise would. That's the first thing. Second thing is a lot of the stuff is wrong. So I feel like in fields like medical and legal, which I've written extensively for, you can't be wrong in those fields. You have to have the nuance and understanding of if A, then B, or maybe C in some cases. And I feel like it's just not there yet.
I also wanted to ask you about something that's happening in Los Angeles, not far from you, and it has to do with the writing. The strike with the writers for the Hollywood writers, and then recently the actors joined. And today I was checking HollywoodReporter.com, I think, said that they're hiring AI analysts that can leverage ChatGPT to replace them because you can write screenplays with ChatGPT now. So first of all, since you're like living in LA, I guess I'll just ask you because I'm curious if it's affected you or your business or know if is everyone in LA just going to copyright in Hollywood going to copywriting. How is that affecting you, and what are your thoughts on this labor dispute? If you have any that you want to share as a digital marketer, kind of also in this like writing communication space with the actors and writers or all the artists of Hollywood.
Oh my gosh, it's so crazy. I know as of right now, I don't know when this will go up, but as of today, right now, they haven't come to an agreement that I've been made aware of, at least not with the Screen Actors Guild or SAG. I do think from this perspective, I think it's scaring people away from writing because they're seeing it more as, oh, it's an unstable career, which isn't necessarily the case, but I understand why, because you're only seeing one piece if you're outside the situation. I don't think AI is the right move. I think we can prepare to be bored off our seats if they start writing movies with AI. Because, I mean, if AI can't even do hands digitally, I don't know if you've seen those pictures with 10 hands and a bowl of spaghetti, but it's just weird. Um, I do think it does also speak to a bigger problem on a larger scale. It almost feels like we are dehumanizing our workforce. I mean, between pressure from the big corporations saying you're not worth what we pay you anyway, you're not going to get the, I'm forgetting the exact term right now, but basically the ongoing royalties or anything for what you do in the arts. We're just going to hire a robot. I feel you can only do that so much before you start losing your humanity in certain things, and I feel like we're kind of reaching that fever pitch. So I really hope to see it turn around. I hope that we can focus on, these are real people with real lives, and I feel like that is the point that these actors are trying to push. I don't know if you've been seeing the social posts from a lot of them, usually micro actors too, just kind of going against the machine here, but I've seen that tone, so I hope it continues. I hope it starts a revolution and we cool it on the AI front a bit.
It's just another way to kind of like undermine writers because as writers we're always like, oh, we're just writers, but what does it mean when we say that about writing? I think it means that we don't value writing, like because I'm a writing tutor right now, and you would be shocked at the kind of errors that people make, especially as someone in the writing space. The other day I was correcting this woman, and she just disagreed with me that she was like, my writing is correct, and I was like, I don't know what to tell you. I'm a writer, like as my job. So I mean that would be like a good application of ChatGPT to like correct people in education, like to but to actually have like exercises that like type in your text, it just like gives you like a list of errors. But to have it write actual articles and then to use those and as a cost cutting measure, I do find that very problematic. And I think that the labor strike that's going on in with the actors, it's important to pay people their worth. And as marketers, we know that because our worth is a lot. Because marketers get companies lots of money, and so I think you'd say the same about Hollywood. Like Hollywood's a million huge industry. I think it shows a lot about the culture that they and maybe also about the economic situation that we're in right now, post pandemic, adjusting to this new normal.
Outsourcing, being strategic, that's one thing, right? It's okay, fine. And then that prompts the question, well, where's the line between strategy and ethics and all that? So, but I think the thing to keep in mind is that after the pandemic, it seems like we went through a massive devaluation of human life, because I feel like we've went and got accustomed to seeing the field hospitals and, the horrifying images that we were forced to see on a global scale, that it made everyone callous. And it's like, wars were started with words. A lot of the time, if you look back in history, a single letter could be enough to put two countries in an altercation. So I think that the arts and the art of persuasion and writing are massively undervalued. I think human life is undervalued. And I also think until we start feeling the effect, we don't realize what we have till it's gone. And I think we're going to be feeling the same when we see ChatGPT and all these other tools taking over and seeing how bland it really is and how wrong it can be. And then we're going to start, risk assessing a little differently. We're going to start prioritizing a bit differently. That's my hope. I already see some companies do it. I've had companies come back to me after, trying these tools, and they're like, yeah, never mind. Like, we want you, let's go with you. You're a human who can research. So I think the tide will turn. I think we just have to wait it out. Right now it's painful, but people who stick it out now will likely see returns in the future.
Everyone's using ChatGPT right now, and sometimes they don't know that its limitations. I was just writing in our recent newsletter for Fancy Comma, like, we're all using a technology that we don't understand. What could possibly go wrong? And luckily, nothing has gone majorly wrong. But I, I just know I'm going to read a blog that was generated by ChatGPT about science, and it's going to be horribly wrong. And then like it's going to get cited a bunch, and it's just going to fuel misinformation. And the other thing is, the elections are coming up. It can be used for election misinformation to just generate like blog post after blog post automatically. And Fancy Commas worked in the political communication space. I've worked in the political communication space, working on the comms and sort of strategy teams, and also field organizing for two senators that won this past midterm cycle. So that will be a really interesting thing to deal with. Like, now I have this thing like, was this written by a human or was this written by ChatGPT? And it's like, maybe that's going to be one of the things that humans will be able to tell, but robots won't be able to tell. Because, when ChatGPT writes stuff, it's very organized. Like, I feel like on some level, when I read something generated by ChatGPT, I can tell because the words are grammatical, whatever, but it just doesn't make sense because someone, I think, wrote a ChatGPT article and tagged and linked to Fancy Comma, and I read it and I was like, I don't know what this is saying. So, but on some level, like, do you really want a robot writing stuff for humans, or do you want humans writing stuff for humans? And like this whole idea that you mentioned of just undervaluing human work, I think is a really huge problem. And I think that until we figure out the proper role of AI in writing, and sort of on a larger role, like writing as like this one case that we're all kind of dealing with right now, that Hollywood's dealing with right now in their labor disputes, which is really mind-boggling to me. We're not going to be able to move forward and figure out how this can truly fit into our lives. And one other thing I wanted to say about the dispute, the labor thing that's happening in Hollywood is, I think that's the first like major uh, dispute that involves ChatGPT, like on some level. So I think when we find out what's going on with that, like that will set the stage for how marketers use ChatGPT, how we pay people for ChatGPT articles. I don't even know if there's going to be a solution there. Like a resolution there, because it's been forever. So,
It
um,
has. It has. And I don't see, honestly, I feel like it's going to change how we view art in general, potentially, because then you're going to have this entire generation that's witnessed this and they're going to be thinking, it has a certain value. I do think ChatGPT can help. I think it has to be, if I were a lawmaker and I was king of the universe, which I'm not, I would say that it has to be only relegated to objective things, like you said, spell checking, English grammar rules, things that are very concrete, set in stone, aren't changing, haven't changed forever. I think that's a safe way to approach it rather than going willy nilly and letting ChatGPT run away with itself. Like, this is just, it does make me feel uneasy. I think that with all the disputes we're seeing, we're definitely going to be seeing some really great legislation in a few years. So it'll be interesting to see.
I worked in Congress for a while, and the person I worked for was in the AI caucus back then. So he actually had me like, so I was working for free. This haunts me actually, but I guess I'll just tell everyone about it because it's been on my mind. So I was working for free, and I was living in a hotel in Washington D.C. And one day I was like, "Hey, I did all my tasks already." I was like, "Do you have anything else for me?" And I was working as a MIT graduate, Georgetown graduate, neuroscientist. They're like, "Hey, here's a job for you. We're gonna do something about AI. Like, do you want to research this thing about AI?" And I was like, "Oh, that's interesting. AI, artificial intelligence. Like, yeah, sure, I guess." And then I realized I ran out of money. I ran out of time. I was just kind of, when you don't have money, you don't have time, you're working in the House of Representatives, it's like so chaotic. Like, I just didn't have the mental space to work on it. So I actually had to quit that job because I ran out of money. And then, like, now the AI is being like, people are talking about legislating AI, and it's mind boggling because it's like, what if I had money and resources to do that? Like, would we be in a better place? Probably. We would just ignore it. We would just move on to whatever is next. But it's insane to think about that. So now it's time to, they will actually be forced to, because they could write whole bills with AI, and the bills might be like completely like wrong. That just makes me, thinking about that really makes me stop and think about the role of society, technology in society, and technology literacy, and all of that stuff. So
That's so scary. Now that you said that, that's going to haunt me because I was thinking, even today, I'm like, okay, we already saw like election nonsense going on with Twitter. Like, that's huge news. Wall Street Journal, everyone knows now. So we know tech has a hand somewhere. Now we're like running the risk of AI creating like views on political candidates and informing Gen Z who is growing up hooked on this stuff. Like, I am terrified, honestly, from that perspective because we aren't taking
yeah,
initiative to think for ourselves anymore a lot of the time, and like we're seeing that more and more in the effects, and now we're like, okay, well, if ChatGPT says this, it must be true, and that's a very scary proposition.
scary indeed. And it just really makes you think about misinformation and fake news, and how easy it's going to be to make fake news now with ChatGPT. And I thought the pandemic was the worst of it, but maybe there's going to be the one thing that we get from ChatGPT is just like fake news every day that like looks real because it's just like modeled after other news sources. So that's our prediction. I feel like we should come back to this video in a few years and see if our predictions came true, because no one can ever truly know the future, but we can always consider all the possibilities, and that's part of having a future where you want, where you achieve your goals of advancing society, and try to avoid the negative aspects of technology that can be used for bad purposes, nefarious purposes. So clearly, they should put us in charge of AI strategy, because as marketers, we've run the gamut. We've just done so much ChatGPT stuff. We've already saved the world in the pandemic. So, I mean, in my mind, we've saved the world in the pandemic, because how terrible would the pandemic have been if we were not there to explain stuff to people and help healthcare companies to adapt rapidly and everything. I think that's just not even fathomable. So, is there anything else you would like to tell our 26 followers? Hopefully, we'll get some more after this about Copybean. That's not to discredit Copybean. It's just we just started our YouTube, so maybe we'll get a bunch more followers and get famous and change the world. But what all do you have anything to like promote for your company?
Yeah, I mean, we're always here to help. We do offer free intro calls. So, like, if there's any small business owners that might be seeing this, even if you're not in the health and wellness space or tech space, we have specialists that are here just to kind of help you determine your next step. And we write out that plan for you, regardless if you come on with us or not. So, you can just come chat with me and have a nice hour and then walk away um, if you'd like, or we can take the next step together. As far as anything else, thank you so much for having me, Shiva. I loved being here. I would have loved to know you like pre-pandemic, so we could have ridden this out together. But it's just really great. I'm happy to connect with other people who like are actively thinking about this, because sometimes it kind of feels like, you know, you're the only person with concerns and you're just kind of watching it all go on around you. So
I definitely felt that way, and that's why it's also been amazing to chat with you. And I think a lot of people that follow Fancy Comma will really relate to you because I feel like you're more on the marketing side than we are. We're more like science first and then marketing, but you're more marketing.
with a sprinkle
I
of
don't.
science.
I
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's like that's kind of the space where that Fancy Comma's in that I'm trying to find all the where like I know we're out there. Like there's a ton of us. We're like science, but we're in marketing. But you know, in marketing, like you can get a degree in marketing and then just be a
Mm-hmm.
marketer. But as a scientist, you also have that science aspect. So that's a lot of what we talk about on our blog is that. So I hope that we will be able to find those people and they'll follow us. And that we can continue the conversation with them and hopefully they'll reach out to you. People will reach out to you if they need social media management, SEO, content writing, website copywriting, any other digital marketing, because you truly are like a professional in this arena. Kind of now that I've chatted with you, first of all, it's great to meet you, great to connect with you, and I look forward to being in touch and seeing where this all goes, this our world today. So thanks so much for being on our YouTube, and I hope your parakeets enjoy the training they've gotten to get to announce some new stuff like SEO copywriting.
AI ethics. Yeah, I can't wait to come back to
Oh
this.
yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a good day.